Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the February 19th Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. And we're blessed this morning to have Tim Pierce lead us in the opening prayer. and officer ought lead us in the pledge of allegiance. So those that are willing and able, please stand.
I was honored that the chairman asked me to pray. I prayed at these meetings several times. The greatest influence on my life was my father. He was a minister for over 60 years. He loved to pray. He loved his county. He loved his country. He was a World War II vet. And on Sunday, last Sunday, on 3:30, he went to be with the Lord. And I'm glad he's in glory and has no more pain. But I know he's praying and thinking of all of us. His favorite verse was found in Galatians 3, verse 20. I've been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you we live in a country that we have the freedom to talk to you, to get into your word, and to be loved by you. I pray for each and every one of these commissioners as they hear the cases today, that you'll give them wisdom, Lord, and they'll make wise choices for this county. I thank you for each and every person here that has a desire to help this county grow and prosper. Bless them as they present. Your will be done, Lord. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah, wow. Thank you, Tim, and also please accept our deepest sympathies on the passing of your father. My best friend of 55 years passed away on Friday, so I know your pain right now. But I know they're both in glory like your father. Okay, John, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today's hearing will be conducted with the following process and procedure. Each case will be called in numerical order. When each case is called, the applicant is asked to stand and signify that they are present. Then we're going to call for anyone who is opposed to a case so they can be counted for the record. After the counting of the opposition, the applicant and the opposition will be asked to come forward to be sworn in so they can present testimony to the Board of Commissioners. The applicant will testify first, and then the opposition, if any, will testify second. It's important to note that each side gets 10 minutes to state their case or concerns. There is not a process to reserve your time, and there's not a rebuttal process, so convey all your information to the board within your 10-minute time period. Additionally, if more than one person wishes to speak on an issue, you might want to coordinate with each other about what you're going to talk about, because each side only gets 10 minutes to state their case, and you don't want to cover the same information twice. Then after both sides have had their 10-minute presentation period, the board will start to discuss the case in hand. From the discussion, they may ask one or more people to come back to the front for questions or comments. After that, the board will make a decision to either approve, deny, hold, or continue the case at hand. There are a number of cases on today's printed agenda which have been withdrawn and will not be heard today. First case is rezoning case Z49 2018, KO Management Incorporated. That case has been withdrawn without prejudice and will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z69 of 2018, Brooks Chadwick Capital LLC. That case has been withdrawn without prejudice and will not be heard today. SLEP 12 of 2018, Ackworth Baker Grove LLC. That case has been withdrawn without prejudice and will not be heard today. Other business number 50 of 2018, 6M Properties LLC. That case has been withdrawn without prejudice and will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z7 of 2019, WS Hotels LLC. That case has been withdrawn without prejudice and will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z10 of 2019, Curley Family Homes LLC. This case has been withdrawn without prejudice and will not be heard today. SLEP 12 of 2019, WS Hotels LLC. This case has been withdrawn without prejudice and will not be heard today. SLEP 3 of 2019, Family Life Resource Center Incorporated. This case has been withdrawn without prejudice and will not be heard today. Mr. Chairman and Board, we did get 2 requests for 2 other cases to be withdrawn without prejudice. Rezoning case Z62 of 2018, McConnell Green 2 LLC, and also other business number 79 of 2018, McConnell Green LLC. The applicant has asked that both these cases be withdrawn without prejudice, so we would need a vote by the board on this matter.
It is. I would like this withdrawn with prejudice since it was not done within the 7-day time period.
Okay, we have a second? We have a second? Any discussion? Call the question? Passes 5-0. '62.
There are a number of cases on today's printed agenda which have been continued by the planning commission or staff, and they would not be heard today. And this is a list of the following cases. Rezoning case Z37 of 2018, Winchester Parkway LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the March 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z37 of 2018 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z61 of 2018, EMAE LLC. That case was continued by the Planning Commission until the March 5th 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z61 of 2018 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z64 of 2018, Northside Hospital, Inc. by Denton's US LLP. That case was continued by the staff until the March 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z64 of 2018 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z70 of 2018, the Wasserman Group LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the March 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z70 of 2018 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z71 of 2018, Pope and Land Enterprises Incorporated. This case was continued by the staff until the March 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z71 of 2018 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z76 of 2018, Mohammed Vasai. This case was continued by the staff until the March 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z76 of 2018 will not be heard today. Zoning case Z77 of 2018, Ackworth Baker Grove LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the April 2nd, 2019 Board of Commissioners Planning Commission hearing. So Z77 of 2018 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z80 of 2018, Embry Development Company LLC. This case was continued by the Planning Commission until the March 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z80 of 2018 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z81 of 2018. This case was continued by the staff until the March 19th, 2019 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. So Z81 of 2018 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z82 of 2018, IGBO Union Atlanta. This case was held by the Planning Commission until the March 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z82 of 2018 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z83 of 2018, Blake Wilder Strategies LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the March 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z83 will not be heard today. Other business item number 71 of 2018, Mount Bethel Christian Academy Incorporated. This case was continued by the staff until the March 19th, 2019 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. So other business 71 of 2018 will not be heard today. Other business number 80 of 2018, Alan Barron. This case was continued by the staff until the March 19th, 2019 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. So other business 80 of 2018 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z1 of 2019, Margarita Dazuda and Mark Vicaro. This case was continued by the staff until the March 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z1 of 2019 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z5 of 2019, Summerlin Homes. This case was held by the Planning Commission until the March 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z5 of 2019 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z8 of 2019, Carl Streck. This case was continued by the Planning Commission until the March 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z8 of 2019 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z9 of 2019, Blake Properties Incorporated. This case was continued by the staff until the March 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z9 of 2019 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z11 of 2019, Family Life Restoration Center Incorporated. This case was continued by the staff until the March 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z11 of 2019 will not be heard today. SLEP 1 of 2019, Prime Tower Development LLC. This case was continued by the Planning Commission until the March 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So SLEP 1 2019 will not be heard today. Other business number 40 of 2018, John and Mona Lloyd. This case was continued by the staff until the March 19, 2019 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. So other business 40 of 2018 will not be heard today. Mr. Chairman and Board, we did get one request to continue one of your cases that have been continued in the past. SLUP 13 of 2018, Kennesaw Jewish Center Incorporated. The applicant is requesting this case be continued another month so they can work on some site plan development issues, Mr. Chairman. So we would need a vote to continue that.
Thank you. We do have some representatives from Pine Tree Civic Association here today, and we are still working on access on Campus Loop Road, and I would like to continue those efforts and get involved myself. So I would make a motion that we continue this until the March zoning hearing.
So a second. Any discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
And John?
Yes, sir.
Z76 is withdrawn.
It was withdrawn, Commissioner Ott, but it's a planning commission case, so we're going to withdraw it at the planning commission hearing next month, and it's going to be on your agenda next month that it's withdrawn.
Okay, all right,
It's
just want to
pending
make sure.
before the planning commission.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the public knew that.
Okay.
And, excuse me, John, which case did you say was continued to April?
That would be Z77 of 2018, Ackworth Baker Grove LLC. It's continued to the April 2nd, 2019 planning
Okay.
commission hearing.
Okay, thank you. Not Z71. Do we know anything on that?
It's most likely going to be continued again, but that's pending before the planning commission, so it's going to appear on their agenda and then on your agenda.
Okay, thank you, sir.
John, you had an OB after OB 71, the Mount Bethel Christine Academy. Was there another OB after that? 80? Because it's not on my schedule.
Yeah, you read OB 80, but
Yeah, but it's not on the one that I have. That's all I'm saying.
he has a new one that's on his.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure I didn't. Okay,
We didn't have OB 80.
okay.
He does.
Are you working off the agenda? It says last revised 2/15/18 at the top.
The one that says
19.
215?
Yeah, 2/15/19 is last
Yeah, hold on.
revised.
Let's just, okay, yeah, it's on that one. Okay. All right, we're good. We're good. Yeah, just a lot of paper here. All right.
Well,
Mr. Gamble?
And actually, I would like to reject the request for OB 40 of 2018 to be continued.
Okay, so you can make a motion to do that. We have a second. Further discussion on Commissioner Gamble.
And just to clarify for the audience, I have gone back and watched the hearings from September and also December pertaining to this case, and it is my understanding that we just need to make a motion to either approve or deny. And I would like to go ahead and do that.
So we just need to make the vote?
Correct. I
So
need
we
to
don't
make a
hear
mo,
it?
it has been heard. There was a motion on the floor. It has been tied. Therefore, we're just down to needing a motion to be made.
Is the applicant here to present? So we can
Is the applicant here or the
Yes.
representative?
Okay, so Debbie,
No, we're not hearing it.
Debbie, we've already heard this case, and it was tied 2-2. So the policy, the board policies is we wait till the commissioner who is absent to come, and we voted on that, I thought already.
We did, and so when Commissioner Ott voted in December,
Right,
the motion failed.
right.
So Commissioner Weatherford made a motion to approve, and then he revised it to a motion to continue. So we've already had the public hearing on it.
Right,
So it's a matter of, we need to have a motion to dispose of the case, because it was continued, it is still pending before the board. So we have to have a successful motion to take care of the case.
okay.
But we've already had the public hearing on it.
All right, so Commissioner Gamble can make a motion to, what's the right wording?
Oh, you're saying to, well, see, staff continued this. I was told that
What?
a continuance was going to be requested today.
Yeah, but why did the staff continue if the board already voted on it?
Mr. Chairman, could I help?
Well, they continued it for this month.
Yeah, I'm just trying, we voted to deny, all right? When Commissioner,
No,
Oh.
the vote was to approve
all right,
failed.
right,
And then in December, Commissioner Weatherford made a motion after Commissioner Ott voted on the prior motion.
Right.
So there were two motions voted on
Right.
in December on this matter.
Correct.
The first was to deny for 3 homes. Well, it's a failed motion. The second motion was to continue it until February.
okay,
I have to look. So, and then like I said, I was told that Mr. Sams was going to be requesting a continuance until March.
okay,
Staff
well, I'll leave
continued-
that then with Commissioner Gamble. All right, and she's the one that's gonna, he may request it, but it's up to her to make the motion as to what we're gonna do with the case.
Mr. Chairman,
Right.
Commissioner Gamble, may I say something?
No, I'm not sure. Well, I think we gotta have a motion first before we can discuss anything, right?
Did Commissioner Gambrell make the motion to,
All right. Well,
reject the continuance?
any discussion between the commissioner and the developer's representatives has to be done, all right, prior to this meeting. So any discussion that you, Mr. Sams, right now, would only be something where the board would entertain at the pleasure of the board, and I don't hear that right now. So I think what we have to do is that we have to have Commissioner Gamble make a motion as to whether or not she wants to continue or not. Right?
right, yeah, if,
Right.
so that you can discuss it.
That's correct. So I need a motion from Commissioner Gamble. And she's already made a motion that we not
Advertised as continued.
Deny the request for
continue,
continuance.
right? And we have a second for Commissioner Rock. Now the floor is open to,
I need to make a comment.
sure.
Mr. Peterson was just telling me that it has been advertised as being continued until March. So at this point in time, notice to the public is continuance until March. So we've got to give them due process, and we're gonna have to leave it on as,
Okay,
on
so-
continuance.
And just to add on to that, the attorney who represents the opposition is aware of this continuance. He agreed to continue it till March.
Okay. What about the commissioner? Was she informed of this?
No, I was not. I essentially received an email at the last minute in regards to this. And even though there's ongoing negotiations, the bottom line is we just need a vote from the board. The public hearing has been closed. No new information should be allowed. So I would extend the offer to Mr. Sams that if he would like to withdraw the case, I will give that to you without prejudice, or it will come back in March just for a vote, based on the information that it was presented.
All right, I guess my question is, why was it advertised it was continued to March?
Well, and John, I'm sorry, I kind of jumped in there, but,
The applicant submitted a letter within the 7-day timeframe
Right.
to continue the case, and the opposition's attorney accepted that outcome, that it would be continued till March. So I don't even think the opposition's attorney is here today.
Yeah, but I guess my question is, how can we continue something without the board?
The bigger concern to me is in September, we had a failed motion. Under Robert's rules, it should have failed. Cobb County had another rule that said it could come back for a vote of the commissioner that was absent. It should have come back in October. It should not have been held to December. By holding it to December, it essentially allowed the applicant to go back and come up with a new site plan. Again, that is not what was presented in the vote that started in September. So if he wants to submit new information pertaining to the case, it needs to be brought back as a new application.
Well, we're between a rock and a hard place. We advertised that it's gonna be held till March.
I don't mind holding it to March, but again, we're gonna be in the same place where
Sure.
it's gonna come back and we are just gonna
All
have a
right, so I
vote,
think
not a public
because we've
hearing.
advertised it to March, but I would like to know offline how we did that without coming back to the board.
Well, and I guess I would like to know how it got held from September
Right.
to December. Again, knowing that we just needed to finalize the vote on a motion, and if that motion had failed, another motion should have been made.
All right, we'll have that discussion offline, but right now, we're gonna continue until March.
Okay, and the board can let Mr. Sams know that there will be no more continuances or holds after March. It's going to be heard on March 19th, and that's, the final decision is going to be
Well,
made.
it's already been heard.
It's not going to be heard, just a vote will be taken in March. Because the public hearing has been closed.
Okay, we've,
Can't revise it after the hearing.
No, I'm talking about between the last hearing and this.
But he's trying to revise it after a motion and after a vote has failed. So the hearing on the case and the information that is presented has been closed.
I would like to ask the county attorney a question with respect to that. We've heard cases here where we've technically, have we held it after we've heard it or continued it after we've?
the difference in this instance is that, what typically happens is we'll hear a case and, have opposition questions. We go through the process. A motion might be made to approve, but it's, or deny, whichever the case may be, but it's not voted on. There's a substitute motion to continue it. In this instance, there was a vote I mean, there was a public hearing, there was a vote, and what would happen in that instance, of course, in September, if y'all recall, what happened was it was a tie vote, which we had a commissioner out, so we had to hold it to the next hearing because under our rules, a tie vote leaves the motion pending. Then there was but what typically would have happened would be that the motion would fail and another motion would be made. So once the vote is taken, that's the difference here. We haven't had that situation. That's John is saying, Deb? It's a unique situation because we don't typically have a vote to approve or deny the matter before we do the continuance.
Okay.
So anyway, we're continued to March. Okay?
And when we continue it until March, are we only seeking a vote of the one commissioner that was not here?
No, because that motion failed. The original motion failed. Somebody will need to make a new motion to approve or deny
Okay.
the matter.
All right.
Right. And that's what we'll do in March. Okay, we're good. So you have a continuance to March, Mr. Sams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You bet. Okay. Think that takes care. Now we're on to the consent, right, John? Consent agenda?
Okay. Yes, sir, thank you. I would like to ask people in today's audience, if you have a cell phone, please turn the volume off on your cell phone. The ringing does interfere with the broadcast and presentation, so please turn the volume off on your cell phone. Any person wishing to speak before the Board of Commissioners must file a campaign contribution disclosure statement. If within 2 years immediately preceding the filing of a rezoning application, a campaign contribution totaling $250 or more was made to a current member of the Board of Commissioners. Additional information about this requirement is located on the table in the back of the room. I want to remind applicants, opposition, or any interested party that information is due to this board the Wednesday prior to this hearing date. Any information submitted to this board after the Wednesday due date may or may not be considered by this board at their discretion. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to start the consent agenda. Thank you. Cobb County Board of Commissioners zoning hearing consent agenda for February 19, 2019. Rezoning case Z67 of 2018. Ken Aaronhold requests rezoning from R20 to NRC for the purpose of an office in land lot 109 of the 16th District. The property is located on the northeast corner of Woodstock Road in York Place. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. A 20-foot wide landscape buffer to be added to the back property line. Fencing to be approved by the applicant and the neighbor at plan review. Fencing to be added along the back property line. Applicant to work with the Cobb County Department of Transportation during the plan review process regarding the curb cut on York Place. If feasible, make the curb cut closed. Otherwise, determine a safe location where children can enter and exit the school bus. A 10-foot wide landscape buffer is to be added where the trees are removed along York Place. And staff comments and recommendations. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z67 of 2018?
And John, I just want to make sure the school bus, this is a school bus stop, right?
There's a school bus stop a little bit into York that the existing driveway may conflict with. So
Alright.
they're talking about moving the driveway further south to get away from the school bus stop.
Okay,
And DOT is gonna determine that at plan review.
okay.
And let the record show there's no one opposed. Rezoning case Z2 of 2019, Richard and Crystal Johnson request rezoning from R80 to R40 for the purpose of a single-family house. In land lot 30 of the 19th district, the property is located on the south side of Dallas Highway and on the north side of Old Dallas Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to Stormwater Management Division comments and recommendations, Water and Sewer Division comments and recommendations, and Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed? Rezoning case Z2 of 2019. Let the record show there's no one opposed. Rezoning case 3 of 2019, Lakeshore Trust Incorporated, request rezoning from GC to NRC for the purpose of offices in land lot 780 of the 16th district. The property is located on the southeast intersection of Boyd Road and Dorsey Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to the letter from Carol Brown. And we're gonna change the date on this, Mr. Chairman, because I understand the wrong letter was read into the record of the Planning Commission. But it's the letter from Carol Brown dated January 31st, 2019, on file with the zoning division. Parcel number 1 at Boyd and Dorsey Road for auto brokerage only or use. Cannot have storage of automobiles. Parcel number 2 for contractors' office use. Applicant has 60 days from the Board of Commissioners' decision to remove the goats and clean up the property. Buildings would need to be brought up to commercial standards, and staff comments and recommendations. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z3 of 2019? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
Mr. Burrow has a comment about the goats.
That wasn't entered in the record, I hope. I would like to submit the letter referenced of January 31st from Carol Brown to the clerk for the record, to make sure we have the right date, right letter.
Yes, and that board was emailed to the Board of Commissioners on February 13th.
Right.
So we leave the goats on the property?
I think the difference was the planning commission referenced the 24th, January 24th letter, but it's the January 31st letter.
Correct.
I just want to make sure that's corrected.
Rezoning case Z4 of 2019,
2 acres.
Centric Development LLC, request rezoning from R20 to RSL for the purpose of an assisted living facility in land lots 330 and 331 of the 20th district. The property is located on the north side of Dallas Highway and on the west side of Garrison Commons. The Planning Commission recommends approval, subject to the letter of agreeable conditions from Mr. Parks Huff dated February 4th, 2019, with the site plan included. The only structure allowed on the entire land, 24 acres, is the one shown on the revised site plan dated December 5th, 2018. Structure shall only be built on the 9.87 acres as designated on the revised site plan dated December 5th, 2018. No structure shall be built in the natural park as shown on the revised site plan. The natural park to remain green space in perpetuity. The entire 24-acre tract will remain under common fee ownership with no individual units shall be offered for sale. A perpetual conservation easement shall be recorded in Cobb County Public Records in a form suitable to the county protecting the natural park from development. No permits shall be issued until the perpetual conservation easement is recorded. No more than 90% of the rooms shall be single-bed rooms. Applicant and the successors must take action to prevent any undue concentration or discharges of created nuisance to any downstream users. Variance to allow for a supportive facility outside an activity center. Stormwater Management Division comments and recommendations, and Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z4 of 2019? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
Commissioner Burrow, Commissioner Gamble, I apologize.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Huff. Um, For the record, a new stipulation letter was submitted on February 15th of 2019. That will be in addition to the stipulation letter that was dated February 4th, 2019. We also need to amend the site plan date. In all of these letters, Mr. Huff submitted a site plan yesterday in an email of February 18th, 2019. I do have a printout of the site plan, and the date here, Mr. Huff, of the last revision is 1/30/19. I have emailed a copy to the clerk, but I will hand them a copy here to make sure that we have the current site plan on record. So I'm not sure quite how to do this, because you read in all the stipulations that the planning commissioner had made on there. But the stipulation letter that Mr. Huff submitted on the 15th included some of those, but not all of them. So do you want me to go ahead and add back the ones that were not included in the September 15th stipulation letter, since that is now going to be added to the record?
Is the February 15th letter, is that in addition to the February 4th letter, or is it taking the place of the
It's
February?
in addition. So the February 4th letter is still applicable, and the February 15th letter. But the February 15th letter essentially went through and took the other subject to conditions, but it didn't take all of the subject to conditions that had been placed at the planning commission.
Okay, so I think an easy way to fix that is to make it subject to the letters dated February 4th and February 15th, 2019, with the February 15th letter being the one that controls if there's a conflict between the two letters. If there's
I've reviewed both of them, and there's not a conflict.
Okay.
It's truly in addition to, but not all of the conditions that were placed on the planning commission were included in the letter of February 15th.
Okay,
So therefore, I'd like to add those back in as part of the.
so there are conditions that you want to add in that John did not read nor were included in the letters.
Well, John read them when he was going through the consent, but they're not in the February 15th letter. Only some of,
If John read all the conditions that you want to have attached to the zoning, that is in the record. That's what he's doing. So
Okay.
you're good.
okay,
If-
even though the new stipulation letter only includes part of those conditions, not all of them.
That's correct, since John
Okay.
read it in.
Okay. The only thing that we need to include is, we need to add fire department comments and recommendations, and then also water and sewer comments and recommendations.
Just a question on what Commissioner Gamble was asking. Sometimes in a stipulation letter, it has a clause that says not otherwise in conflict, or that it controls. So even though John read them, that new letter on the 15th, and I haven't read all of it, I don't know if it has it in there, but sometimes the letter says something different than the stipulations. And so if she wants the stipulations that John read from the planning commission, I think she probably needs to say that those would control if there's a conflict. You know what I'm saying?
If I can clarify that real quick, just, one of the conditions, exactly what you're saying, what my letter did was not really added conditions, it more clarified the planning commission recommendations. One of them was a maximum of 90% shall be one bedroom. It should be the reverse, no more than 10% shall be two bedrooms. We're trying to limit two bedrooms to no more than 10%. So we didn't want to be forced to do more two bedrooms than we wanted to. So that was just a clarification on the intent of it. So my letter needs to control on that issue. So to your point, if my letter where it conflicts with the PC recommendation, the clarifications in my letter needs to control.
And again, so as long as the other items that he didn't include in his letter, but that were included at the PC hearing are still applicable.
Right, no, but what Parks just pointed out is there's a conflict between his letter and the PC.
Right, because the
And they don't say the
PC said
exact same-
90% had to be one bedroom.
Right, so you
His
have
letter
to say
saying,
which one controls, because right now, they're both in the record.
okay,
Because John read them right? John, did you read it as a stipulation from the PC?
Yes.
Right, and so what Parks is saying is, that's what I was trying to point out, is that you have two things that don't say the same thing. So you have to decide which one you want, because they don't say the exact same. Now, the end result, what you're telling me, Parks, the end result is the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Right.
really more
Right.
clarification than anything.
But that's just kind of the conflict that I was talking about. You have to, they're not the same.
So which one do you
Okay.
want?
Let me ask Parks a question. Is it just that one issue, Parks?
It was, I mean, a couple of tweaks, like one of the conditions, number, trying to find the right one.
I have
Number
them
six, that,
itemized out.
number six, merge two issues. No individual units were for sale. When you read this, it makes no sense. When you were at the planning commission meeting, what he was going back to is say that the units in the condo, in the RSL building would be for lease, not for sale. But it was merged with a sentence, number six, dealing with the ownership of the green space. So those two things kind of merged a little bit. So I think if it just simply said we're in conflict, my letter controls on the
We're
planning
good.
commission
We're good.
recommendation.
She knows exactly what she wants to say here. She's good, she's fine, so.
Okay, so I guess for clarification, it was our number 9. It was our number 9 from the planning commission. So instead of saying no more than 90% of the room should be single bed, we'll change it to Mr. Huff's language of no more than 10% shall be 2-bedroom.
Okay.
So-
That's on the record?
So that's on the record. And then we're good.
Okay, about the leasing, you want to make sure we're clear about that they'll all be leased, right?
Correct, and that
Yeah.
is still in his
Okay.
letter, yeah.
He just want to make sure that was clear for the record too.
Oh, I know there was some discussion if it should be units or rooms. I'm gonna lean towards the units, because
Okay.
room to me signifies a hotel, and this is not a hotel.
Okay.
So units.
So but that'll be the record too, to be clarified, units by.
And that's what
rooms.
Mr. Huff's had
Right.
referenced,
Yeah, that's what my letter references.
Okay,
And then,
so we're clear on both points then.
right.
and then I guess the only other third one was all under one common ownership. We'd always talked to the neighbors about the potential for the green park to be transferred to either government entity, to a nonprofit, or maybe to one of the HOAs that adjoin the property. So we wanted to have that in there, that if it's transferred to nonprofit, to somebody like that, that could happen too, which is also in my letter dated.
Right, but then it was also stated that it has to be recorded as a conservation easement
Correct.
prior to your CO, I believe is what you had
That is
said was
correct, yeah.
being issued.
Yeah.
Parks, I just have a question about that, only because it's coming up in my neighborhood right now. You don't have a maximum density in here, do you?
Yes.
Maximum of 131
Units?
Yes.
Units.
Okay, no, because the reason I'm asking about the density is, if you give away the land, because we're dealing with this with Cousins and IBM by my neighborhood, that changes the density. So I just want to make sure that, you know.
Oh, yeah, yes.
You want to have that
Correct.
caveat in there that you can donate the land away, but if you donate the land away, it's going to change the density. So I want to make sure that we're not setting you up down the road.
No.
'Cause we're
Correct,
having to
yeah,
deal
the
with that right
density
now.
isn't a per acre density. That
Right,
would
okay,
change with
all
that.
right.
Correct.
Okay,
So,
are we all good?
almost.
Almost.
So John, just for clarification, on Mr. Huff's letter dated February 15th, his number 6 should read, unless the nature park is transferred to a nonprofit organization or government entity after the conservation easement is recorded, the entire 24-acre tract shall remain under one common ownership. So we just need to add the after the conservation easement is recorded into that. And then also on his number 8, I would like to remove the last sentence, which says this condition shall supersede stipulation number 3 in the letter dated February 4th, 2019 regarding the timing of the recording of the conservation covenant. The reason, Mr. Parks, I'm doing this is if you go back to your stipulation on February 4th, your number 3 is talking about the building architecture.
Okay.
So we're removing the building architecture now too?
No, he tried, but no.
All right.
So
we good?
that is all.
All right.
Yeah.
We got all those?
Okay, clerk has all those?
Okay.
We're good.
We're good.
Thank you.
All right, thank
We're
you.
all happy.
And if, real quickly, I just want to add, I want to thank the Heritage Oaks folks and Garrison Ridge folks that are here in the audience in support of this. I appreciate them coming out. Want to acknowledge that they took their time out of coming here, and pleasure working with them on this case.
Okay.
Yes, and Mr. Huff, thank you again for working with the community on this issue.
All right.
Thank you. Rezoning case Z6 of 2019, Pradera Group LLC requests rezoning from R20 to RA5 for the purpose of 2 single-family houses in land lot 771 of the 17th district. The property is located at the northwestern intersection of Spring Hill Road and Honeysuckle Lane. The Planning Commission recommends approval, subject to the letter of review conditions, Mr. Adam Rosen, dated January 30th, 2019, with the following changes. A, items number 1, 2, 8, 11, 12, and 15, delete in its entirety. Number 2, allow a reduction of the required setbacks to be the following. A, reduce the front setback on Honeysuckle Lane from 40 feet to 25 feet. B, reduce the rear setback from 30 feet to 20 feet. 3, major side setback on Lot 1, which is the corner lot, to be set at 35 feet. 4, distance between homes to remain 15 feet. 5, maximum impervious surface to be 35%. 6, final site plan end elevations to be approved by the district commissioner. 7, construction land development hours to be limited to the following hours. A, Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. B, Saturday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And C, no work on Sundays or holidays. 8, district commissioner may make minor modifications to the approved zoning, except for those that A, increase the density of a project, B, relocate a structure closer to the property line, C, increase the height of a building, D, change an access location to a different roadway, E, would be in direct conflict or a direct contradiction to the Cobb County Cobb County Code of Ordinances or zoning ordinance. F, require a variance waiving applicable regulations of the Cobb County zoning ordinance. 9, Stormwater Management Division comments and recommendations not otherwise in conflict. 10, Water and Sewer Division comments and recommendations not otherwise in conflict. And 11, Department of Transportation comments and recommendations not otherwise in conflict. The applicant's representative is present. Is there anyone here opposed to rezone case Z6 of 2019? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
And Mr. Chairman, I have some changes.
Sure.
Okay, just 3 changes. The first one is the Planning Commission put the major side setback at 35 feet for the corner lot. I'm going to reduce it to 20. I met with the applicant and his representative last week, and we talked about these. Also, so that's the first change. Second one is the 7.5 feet for all interior and exterior side setbacks. That still maintains the 15 feet between, but it affects the outside on the second lot. And that includes the side adjoining for 2360 Honeysuckle. And then the last one is the impervious surface not to exceed 37.5%. They're going to be using impervious concrete, so it's actually probably going to be less. But because of the way the county, you don't get 100% credit for the impervious. So those would be my changes. And John, you got those, right?
Got it.
Okay.
Okay, moving into land use permits on the consent agenda. LUP 2 of 2019, Donna Jordan, request a land use permit renewal for the purpose of allowing 2 houses on 1 lot in land lot 42 of the 18th district. The property is located on the north side of Lee Road, west of Veterans Memorial Highway. Staff recommends approval, subject to site plan received by the zoning division dated September 14, 2018. For this applicant and current family use only. If the property is sold to another party or the applicant or their family ceases to use the second house, then the second house shall be converted to a storage building. Second house not to be used as a rental unit. And Water and Sewer Division comments and recommendations. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to LUP 2 of 2019? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
I just, Commissioner, you're aware about the code violations? And- Okay, all right.
LUP 3 of 2019, Patricia Hines requests a land use permit renewal for the purpose of allowing a daycare in land lot 631 of the 19th district. The property is located on the west side of Crest Ridge Circle, south of Crest Ridge Court. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Maximum of 10 children, 1 employee, no signs. Hours of operation to be Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. No on-street parking, no parking in the driveway that blocks the sidewalk, and Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to LUP 3 of 2019? Let the record show there's no one opposed. LUP 4 of 2019, Living Hope Lutheran Church requests a land use permit renewal for the purpose of allowing an early childhood learning center in land lot 201 of the 20th district. The property is located at the northwest intersection of Stylesboro Road and MacDobbs Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. The Planning Commission recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Site plan received by the zoning division on October 18, 2018, with the district commissioner approving minor modifications. Attached traffic flow plan. School can have one 45-inch by 41-inch sign. Fire department comments and recommendations, and Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to LEP 4 of 2019? Let the record show there's no one opposed. And moving into other business items on the consent agenda. Other business number 75 of 2018 is to consider a reduction of minimum public road frontage for Nestor F. Mendoza for property located on the north side of Stone Harbor Parkway, east of Hicks Road, in land lot 21 of the 17th district. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Public road frontage permitted to be 66 feet for this lot, and stormwater management to approve the site grading plan. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 75 of 2018? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Other business item number 1 of 2019 is to consider a reduction of minimum lot size for Alvin L. Deemer for property located on the east side of Stylesboro Lane, south of Giles Road, in land lot 159 of the 20th district. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Minimum lot size to be 26,008 square feet. Grading plan to be approved by Stormwater Management Division. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 1 of 2019? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Other business item number 2 of 2019 is to consider a reduction of minimum lot size for Jackson Contracting for property located at the northeast intersection of Fairview Drive and Worley Drive, in land lot 444 of the 16th district. Staff recommends approval, subject to the minimum lot size to be 34,276 square feet. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to other business number 2 of 2019? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Other business item number 3 of 2019 is to consider amending the zoning stipulations regarding impervious surface for lot number 9 from 35% to 39% for Aqua Design Pools and Spas for property located on the north side of Barn Hill Drive, east of Holly Springs Road, in land lot 601 of the 16th district. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Maximum impervious surface to be 39%. Impervious surface coverage must be mitigated by installation of a dry well system with design to be approved by Stormwater Management. And all previous stipulations not in conflict with this amendment to remain in effect. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 3 of 2019? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Other business item number 6 of 2019 is to consider a site plan amendment for the Cobb Marietta Coliseum and Exhibit Hall Authority regarding rezoning application Z34 of 2007 for property located on the east side of Cobb Galleria Parkway and on the western side of I-75 in land lots 980, 1013, and 1014 of the 17th district. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Site plan received February 13, 2019, with the district commissioner approving minor modifications. Letter from Mr. Kevin Moore dated February 13, 2019. Water and sewer comments from the other business item. Stormwater management comments from the other business item. Cobb DOT comments from the other business item. Fire Department comments from the other business item, and all previous stipulations not in conflict with this amendment to remain in effect. The applicant's representative is present. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 6? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
John, I'd like the record to reflect, I'm gonna have to abstain from this vote since I'm on the Coliseum and Exhibit Hall Authority Board.
Okay. Other business item number 7 of 2019 is to consider a site plan and stipulation amendment for Christopher L. Miller regarding rezoning application 231 of 1986 for property located at the southwest intersection of Mars Hill Road and Brookstone Drive in land lot 225 of the 20th District. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Site plan received January 15, 2019. Proposed renderings contained in the other business packet, all 4 pages. Cobb DOT comments from the other business item, and all previous stipulations not in conflict with this amendment to remain in effect. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 7 of 2019? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
John, I'd like to add an additional stipulation. To my understanding, there was a conversation between the applicant and the homeowners, and they are in agreement with the proposed change. We just need to add a stipulation that the final architecture elevations will remain red brick with the beige accents, and the final site plan to be approved by the district commissioner.
Okay, got it. The final architectural plans also? Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Other business item number 8 of 2019 is to consider a site plan and stipulation amendment for Crow Holdings Industrial regarding rezoning application Z94 of 2006 for property located on the south side of White Road and on the north side of Third Flags Parkway and land lots 683, 702, and 703 of the 18th District. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Site plan received January 15, 2019, with the district commissioner approving minor modifications. Stormwater management comments from the other business item. Cobb DOT comments from the other business item, and all previous stipulations not in conflict with this amendment to remain in effect. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to other business number 8 of 2019? Let the record show there's no one opposed, and that completes the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman and Board.
Commissioner Cupid, yes.
Yes, there's a request to, excuse me, add other business 5 to consent. However, there's some additional stipulations and one that I would like to discuss with the applicant prior to confirming it being on consent.
You wanna take a short break to do that?
Oh, if you don't mind, or we
Yeah,
can
let's
discuss
take
it
a 5-minute
here.
break,
Okay,
okay?
sure.
Before we vote on the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman, we have one matter that Commissioner Cupid wanted to consider.
Yeah.
And I also need to make some additions to the consent agenda that I didn't read in. So if I could read those in, and then Commissioner Cupid could work on her piece of business, I think that would make it a perfect agenda.
Perfect.
If it's revised, it couldn't possibly be perfect.
It's gonna be perfect at the end.
Oh, I see, okay. The revision will be perfect.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Going back to consent case Z6 of 2019, Pradera Group, I failed to mention that the planning commission deleted that case to R12. So you're voting on it, deleting to R12 with all those conditions.
Okay,
And then each of your land use permits, LUP 2, Donna Jordan, LUP 3, Patricia Hines, and LUP 4, Living Hope Lutheran Church, they're all approved for 24 months.
right,
Okay.
okay. Commissioner Cupid.
Yes, sir. With respect to other business, number 5, I think there still is not agreement with respect to a stipulation, so we can hear that during the regular
Okay.
agenda.
Sounds good. So with that, now I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as revised.
Second.
Second, any discussion? And I'm abstaining on that one that I abstained on. So with that, I'll call the question. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay?
And all those folks that were on consent agenda, you're free to go, just please leave quietly. Okay, moving into the communications to be heard. First case is rezoning case Z63 of 2018, Lloyd Development Services. The applicant is asking for rezoning from R20 to RSL for the purpose of a non-supportive senior living subdivision in land lots 458, 479, and 480 of the 16th district. The property is located on the east side of Holly Springs Road and on the south side of Davis Road. The applicant's representative is present. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z63 of 2018? Let the record show there's one person opposed. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
So that'll be interesting.
John's giving me the high sign, Mr. Chairman, so I'll go on if it pleases the board. Okay. Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
I apologize, Mr. Sands. I was distracted.
I wasn't waiting for you to pop something in your mouth.
Well, it worked. And now I'm television.
Good morning, Mr.
So I'll
Chairman.
have to vote for this.
Members of the board. For the record, my name is Garver Sams. I'm with the law firm of Sams, Larkin, Huff, and Bally, and represent Lloyd Development Services regarding this rezoning. I do have with me today Mr. John Lloyd of Lloyd Development, so we can respond to any questions you have at the appropriate time. Congratulations are in order, Commissioner Gambrill, first zoning meeting on the Board of Commissioners. Welcome. This is an application, and John didn't read it in quite correctly because we're not asking for an age-restricted, non-supportive RSL, but we'll get to that. This was an application that was heard by you, all but Commissioner Gambrill, on 12/18. And at that time, with specific instructions from the district commissioner, you did hold the application. We had 4 in opposition at that hearing that time, but we had the support of Ashmore subdivision. If you look at the property that's been shown on the monitors, you can see the property outlined in yellow there at the intersection of Holly Springs and Davis Road. To our east, that is Ashmore subdivision. That is the subdivision with whom the HOA of which we have been discussing primarily. Of course, other residents in the area as well, but they have 7 homes that back up to our property, so we thought they were certainly the most instrumental. And back in December, we got a letter of support, and that's when we were proposing RSL, so needless to say, they're definitely on board with this. This is a rezoning from R20 to R15. The original rezoning application was for RSL, non-supportive. with 16 lots at a density of 3.7 units per acre. That was deemed by the district commissioner and others to be, notwithstanding the fact that it's on an arterial and with density caps up to 5, it was deemed to be a little too dense, too intense, out of character within this area. So this application has been revised, the proposal in its entirety has been revised, and hopefully you're in receipt of my revised stipulation letter and the site plan that you're seeing on the boards here. While these applications have been pending, I've mentioned our discussions with Ashmore and other residents, some of whom were here in opposition last time. It appears our only opposition is Mr. Sprayberry from the school district, and I understand that. But I think we've addressed and resolved the issues in the neighborhoods with the commissioners' assistance, guidance, and direction. So the revised stipulation letter you have is dated January 29th. January 22nd, I apologize. And so you've had that for some time, been able to study it, and your staff has studied it as well. Typically, staff doesn't go back and re-examine and make a new recommendation, but their original recommendation based on the RSL presentation and proposal was to approve at a density cap of 2.5. This is in an area, future land use map shows densities at LDR from 1 to 2.5 units per acre. So at 10 homes, at 2.32 units per acre, we're within that range. And if you look at the site plan, this is interesting. We originally had 7 to 7 lot configuration, lot against lot in Ashmore. As you can see now, we have 5 of our lots against 7 of theirs. So it's even a better lot ratio than it was before. We've negotiated, and with their input, the 20-foot buffer you see along that side, they'll be a part of the landscape committee that makes decisions about what exactly will go in there as well. The stipulation letter covers a little bit of new territory. The residents here, instead of having to hit a sweet spot at a not necessarily a lower price point, but a lower square footage. The square footage has been raised now. The square footage will be from 2,200 to 3,200 square feet. And of course, with that size, that dictates the price points that you would expect. And we don't get into that, but what you've got handed out to you, architectural renderings, elevations that show four-sided architecture with a variety of different stone, brick, hardy plank, hardy shake, and what you would typically expect to see from a Caldwell Klein architectural product. The all front side and rear yards will be sodded. We've agreed to the Stormwater Management Department's recommendations with respect to the positioning of on-site detention. And if you look where it is now, located in the north west corner near the uneconomic remnant of property left when the roundabout was configured. It was on the north eastern side of the property, but with Mr. Braden's help and input, we've been able to revise that. And in accordance with the ridge line which traverses the property, which I don't know if it puts it in 2 different basins, but it complicates the stormwater management. In fact, Ms. Kahili, who's lived on this property forever, if you look at the first page of my handout, it's an aerial photo. You can see where the old home place is, and right behind that, between her home and Ashmore, the stormwater ponded there significantly, and it was a source of irritation for the neighbors. It just happened to be due and owing to the topo and the contours of the land at the time, and then the stormwater management, the way it was, I guess the way it was diverted. But of course, under your stormwater management protocols, we certainly will be improving that set of circumstances. And going into it with Ashmore, that was their major concern. So we talked about the buffer with the visual screening. We talked about the ponding. Obviously, under this classification, we're limited for impervious surface, and that's not a calculation of the overall impervious. It's a lot per lot basis, and we can't exceed 35 and do not. We'll be creating a mandatory HOA to take care of the detention pond. The streets will be private, but built to the county's design and detail specifications. That gives us the ability to be able to utilize the setbacks, move the homes a little closer to the street, but then move them further away from the residences. So this is not just a unilateral plan that Mr. Lloyd has created. It's done in concert with the district commissioner, input from residents, and then a meeting that we had that also included the zoning manager to make sure we weren't running afoul of any of the county's recommendations. There'll be only one point of ingress and egress, as you can see on Holly Springs, and you can also see there's a 10-foot no access easement around the perimeter of the property that has access to both Davis and Holly Springs Road. That includes everything except for the single point of ingress and egress. DOT has asked for a number of things. One of the things we've had to keep in mind is the configuration of Holly Springs Road and the way it approaches the roundabout there. It's been a very efficient roundabout in terms of the traffic generation and circulation in this area. And ultimately, what we anticipate is submitting a letter of intent to the county manager regarding, hopefully, a purchase of that uneconomic remnant to come back later to you, of course, in the context of a rezoning or other business. But we haven't submitted that yet, so we can't rely on that as being a part of the property. And but I feel certain that the county would be inclined to, for fair market value, to want to work a transaction so that they could sell that property, but I'll keep you posted on that. We're conveying voluntarily the right-of-way needed on both Davis Road and Holly Springs Road. We'll have, of course, sidewalks along the street frontages and within the subdivision as well. We've added a stipulation regarding the Georgia Native Plant Society, Plant Rescue, give them an opportunity, Sherry George and her group, to get in there. We're parking it according to your fire marshal's comments and recommendations, and during plan review, we'll decide the exact positioning of the guest parking with the 10 lots. There's 5 spaces at 0.5 per home. Another stipulation that's not in the stipulation letter, but it's one which I think will give comfort to the community and to the seller and to the purchaser, and that is if permits are not pulled for at least one house on this within 24 months, and it would revert to its R20 classification. And when I say, of course, a permit can't issue until the streets are in. So we're talking about the streets being in, at least one permit being applied for and issued by Cobb County. We've included not just the boilerplate, but added some circumstances under which the district commissioner can and can't make minor modifications. And based upon the fact and the manner in which we followed your direction and the manner and the fact of which constitutes the support we've received from the neighborhood and the, I'll call it, non-opposition here today, we do ask that you follow staff's recommendation for approval. And of course, we're below their density cap at 2.32 instead of 2.5. So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Burrow, balance of the board members, prepared to respond to any questions or address any concerns you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sams. Okay, those in opposition?
Yes, I'm Charles, excuse me. Yes, I'm Charles Sprayberry with the Cobb County School District. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board of Commissioners. I was unaware that this had changed from RSL to R15, and if that is the case, then the school district is fine with the R15. The RSL, if it were the RSL, it would be our typical concerns about the lack of revenue from the senior tax exemption. So,
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for coming again this morning. Commissioner Burrow.
Yes, Charles, I apologize that you didn't get that. When I received the stip letter and the revisions, I did send it out to the neighborhood groups, but I apologize you didn't see it. And our website is still undergoing changes, so it probably wasn't easy to find online either. So, when this first came in, it was applied for as an RSL, and there was opposition. There was also neighbors in favor of in the Ashmore subdivision, which Mr. Sam's covered, but the Planning Commission denied this as an RSL, and staff recommended approval as an RSL, but within the 2.5 units per acre as allowed by LDR. So I've met with the applicant and the neighbors, and I think we have a good plan now for an R15. And I just wanted to read a few things that I want to enter into the record. Of course, the letter January 22nd from Mr. Sams, and as he mentioned, adding the Georgia Native Plant Rescue and the 24-month reversion clause. And also, now this R15 is at 2.32 units per acre, which is identical to Ashmore, 2.32 units per acre in R15. So I think it's very appropriate here, as opposed to the RSL at 3.72 units per acre and 16 lots. So I'm ready to make a motion.
Absolutely.
I would like to make a motion to delete Z63 from R20 to R15, maximum number of lots 10. And the stip letter dated January 22nd from Mr. Garvis Sands. The email dated December 3rd, 2018 from Daryl Brooks of Ashmore HOA. And if the clerk doesn't have that, there's a copy. And all other staff comments, recommendations not otherwise in conflict.
We have a second. Any discussion?
You good?
Okay. All right. Call the question. Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Rezoning case Z78 of 2018, David Hammondtree requests a rezoning from RA5 to RA5 for the purpose of attached single-family residential in land lot 202 of the 17th district. The property is located on the east side of Stantown Road, south of Windy Hill Road. Is the applicant present? The director show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed? Rezoning case Z78 of 2018. The director shows one person opposed, or two people opposed.
Two.
All those wishing to address the board, please come forward, be sworn in.
Good morning, Board of Commissioners. My name is John Hammondtree, and I'm here with my brother, David Hammondtree. And we would like to thank the Board of Commissioners for hearing our case. We would like to rezone the property for the development of a quadruplex on this property on the southeast corner of Windy Hill and Sandtown Road. We feel that it is currently a RA5 zoned lot, but the lot was downzoned from a property that had two zonings on it, neighborhood shopping as well as RM12 in 2005, application number Z65, 2005. It was rezoned from RM12 and NS to RA5 for the purpose of developing 5 lots, residential, single-family homes. And we would have been fine with that zoning, but we came to find out that all 5 of those houses were located in the floodplain. And if I could have my brother distribute some packages so that maybe you could follow along with us to each of the commissioners at this time. But continuing with our involvement of the property, it was brought to our attention that all 5 houses that were proposed on this lot were pretty much in the back of the lot, and they were all in a discovered floodplain. Probably when the application was taken in, they didn't realize that. So our thought was to continue to develop a less dense project that would allow for 4 units instead of 5, but also be a permitted use under the current zoning of RA5. In the code, it states that a quadruplex is an acceptable use or a permitted use, and we would like to develop that outside of the floodplain area, which would be closer to the street on Sandtown Road and still have similar footprint to the houses that exist there now. The property is also located in a NAC, Neighborhood Activity Center, which I believe is the purpose for the construction of that was for a buffer zone for lesser commercial uses and multifamily uses before it abuts next to the residential uses. Again, we feel like we're doing lesser density outside of the floodplain. That's a real goal. And we're inside that buffer zone. If it were to be granted that we could do multifamily there, it is in the transition zone of the NAC before it abuts next to the single-family residential district. And if I could direct your attention maybe to the last page of the pamphlet, you can see a faint line there that shows where the floodplain begins and starts. It's basically from the creek up to that little squiggly line on the last page. And maybe somebody could give me confirmation that you're following along or understand what I'm saying. Okay.
It's also on our screen. so we see
Okay,
it.
fantastic. Yeah, so you can see it there. So it's, you can see what, most of the houses were to be built in that area there. And we're proposing to put the development up closer to the street on Sandtown, be consistent with the existing buildings, be a permitted use within the existing zoning classification. And again, this zoning classification was downzoned from NS to NRM12 to RA5. And we're simply just trying to build outside the floodplain and do a permitted use within the existing zoning classification and have our development be contingent to being developed within the development standards of RA5. Or final approval of the district commissioner to RA5 development standards. And I think that pretty much sums up our case.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir.
All right.
Those in opposition?
Would you pass this to the commissioners, please? My name is David M. Shapiro, Mr. David M. Shapiro. I've been involved in this years ago with our Z65 in 2005 and before. This piece of property has been a nightmare for the neighborhood as far as getting it zoned and getting something built there. I will agree with that. Let them build if possible. The only thing I have is number one, is with disclosure required. Look at the disclosure that was given and consider in the future possibly amending the code to say that if the paperwork is not readable to all the people that are notified, that it does no good. We still have to come here and waste your time. Number two, there is a do not disturb zone along the Nickajack tributary there. That will be maintained, won't it?
Thank you. And alignment of the driveway with Dorse Drive would possibly be helpful for people turning in and turning out, that somebody going northbound on Sandtown Road could make a right into this new driveway without running into someone trying to leave. And that would be part of the county's right of way to give, as far as I'm concerned, if it's not actually in the property. It would be helpful, I think. And they would have to provide a stop sign. That would be it. Other than that, I have one question. How many, this is going to be a 4-unit quadplex, right? 4 units in one building. But there's nothing in the paperwork, how many square feet or anything else. Is there, how many square feet is? So nobody knows? Okay, that's it for me.
It'll be in the site plan.
It looks like about 8/10 of
Thank
an
you.
acre is out of the.
But I
Thank you.
just want to say,
It's in the summary, it's in the summary of the zoning.
yeah. We have it in our notes right here from the county, okay? But I want to assure you that you're never wasting our time.
Thank you,
I mean that.
Commissioners.
Thank you for coming today. Appreciate it.
How y'all doing?
Hey, good morning.
My name's David Moore. I live directly across the street from the proposed site at 2432 Sandtown Road. My concern is the short distance of road frontage we have there. Now, from what I'm looking at, is it going to be one way in, one way out? And plus you've got Doris Drive, you've got a school bus stop that stops right directly in front of my house. Now you've got people coming north on Sandtown over the hill, the slight dip there. And I'm concerned about people trying to make a right into the proposed area, plus the traffic and the headlights coming out of the proposed area, going right in my bedroom window.
Okay.
And I would also like to know how big, now the quadruplex is, the 4 units are going to be in this one building, or is there going to be 4 different?
Well, the picture that I have is one building.
One building.
Right.
One building.
Right.
And I believe I heard him say that he wanted to, since this has been identified, I've lived there for 60 years. It was the same house I was brought home from in 1958, and I've played all over them woods. And it is a marshy, swampy mess down there.
Right.
So he wants to bring it up closer to Sandtown Road.
Correct.
Just exactly how close to Sandtown Road? Has that been established?
Yeah, it's on the site plan too.
And it is unreadable, what I got. I even got my magnifying glass.
I'm looking to see if I can see a distance arrow here, sir. The answer is I would have to do some more homework. The part is that the quadruplex would be outside the floodplain, okay? So if you look on the map, it'll be, this looks like Oklahoma, okay? The quadruplex would be over here in the panhandle. How far back from the road? That's a great question. Can anybody help me here?
That is my main concern.
Sure. John, you know, look at any of the site plan maps here, or?
It appears to be 40 or 50 feet off the edge of the right-of-way of Sandtown Road, but I think the applicant could probably answer that question better than I do.
It's not right on the road though, sir. I mean, do you have this copy of this?
Yes, I do.
All right, you have a copy of the documents he gave us? This is the map that we have. This is Sandtown Road.
Correct.
And this is his proposed driveway, and he's this far off the road.
Okay, and we're just coming in,
Right.
making a circle, so it's gonna be a one-way in one way out.
Right, there's only one way in and out of this place,
I know.
and that's the parking lot right there.
Okay, okay, all right.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay. Appreciate y'all's help.
Thank you, sir. All right, sir, one more. You still have some time.
Requested about alignment with Doris Drive would give them some room.
All right,
So
well-
that they don't interfere with one another.
Okay, and I'll let Commissioner Cupid address all those concerns.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think everybody's had their chance to address the board, so I'll turn it over to Commissioner Cupid.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for the applicant for being here today, and those that have come out in opposition in the community for taking time to express your concern today. I met with the applicant to discuss this application as well as visited the property, and I have some concerns that remain and am not positioned to approve this application today, and would like to give the applicant an opportunity to either continue the case to work through some of these details, or I will deny it today. Some of the concerns that I have begin with one. When I visited the property, the property is not properly signed, or it does not have proper signage from all roads to alert the area residents about this case, and that concerns me. Number two, I asked for elevations of this property because the surrounding development is all one-story, single-family homes. And when I spoke to the applicant, it was stated as a quadruplex. This would have a bit of a different character to fit all 4 homes on it. But I have seen no example of what that's going to look like for me to vary the existing development to what this will, to something of this nature. And you're right in that this is a step-down zoning from something being commercial to residential. However, just from the character of the adjacent properties, which are all being used as residential, they are all one-story, single-family homes. So I'm just concerned about trying to now force 4 homes when there would have been 5 in this entire footprint. Now we're trying to force 4 of those here in this sliver of property up front here. And as was stated by one of the residents, the road frontage is a significant concern. This is a hard piece of property that you have, I'm not going to lie. Just in traveling, the topography, the floodplain, just the uses around it, this is a tough piece of property to develop. But that's why I think because it's that difficult and because what you're proposing is so unique compared to the surrounding area, it's important that I'm very clear about what you're trying to do. And now you know that you have 2 interested adjacent residents. They need to also be very clear about what you're trying to do. So with that, I'm going to ask that we continue this case to the March zoning hearing, which will give you time to get all of that together. We can see how we can make this work.
Second.
I
So with
just
that-
have some comments.
Commissioner, all right.
Commissioner Cupid, just doing the math from the zoning analysis, this is a little more than 3/4 of an acre, so it's 36,000 square feet.
I'm sorry.
It's 36,000 square feet of property. It's
Okay,
not
for
in
the
the
whole-
floodplain. And I agree with you that, I mean, you know, the surrounding community, it's single-family homes. To me, this really, I know it's a big piece of property, but it's really just a single house. I mean, I
That's
can
what-
just moving forward, I can't support anything more than 1 house on here.
That's my,
Because at 36,000 square feet and considering that you have R20 and R15 around it, you know, the character is for a single house.
I don't disagree with you. I do not want to. Here's the thing, I've learned that sometimes no is not your friend when there are other things that need to be addressed that the community has shared. So if there's some way there could be some compromise on what could be done there, and the applicant is hearing there is not support from another commissioner to go beyond a single-family home, and the request is for 4. So again, if you can think about how this can be modified in light of that information, I would encourage you to do that. I appreciate that observation. Yes,
And we
I
have a
move
second?
that we continue this case to the March.
Any
zoning-
further discussion?
Excuse me, hold, because we just heard it. Hold it until the March
So-
hearing.
So we're gonna hold, we have a motion to hold, we have a second, any other discussion? Call a question. Passes 5-0. Okay.
Okay, moving into land use permits. LUP1, Cindy Dixon requests a land use permit for the purpose of 4 backyard chickens in land lot 159 of the 20th District. The property is located on the east side of Red Fox Run, south of Brown Deer Lane. Is the applicant present? The director show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to LUP1? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in?
I'm Cindy Dixon. I'm here today to ask for a land use permit for my 4 chickens. We have no roosters, and we've had them for 3 years as pets, and we get eggs every day from them. And I had notified all my neighbors and had no opposition from anybody, and no one on February 5th.
Okay. There's no opposition, so I'll turn this one over to Commissioner Gambrill.
Thank you. I'm ready to go ahead and make a motion.
Okay?
So I'd like to make a motion to approve LUP 1 of 2019, subject to the following conditions. 1, you're only allowed the 4 hens. 2, no roosters. And number 3, if there are any code violations issued within the next 12 months where the applicant is found guilty by a court hearing, then the land use permit will not be renewed.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Was that approved for 12 months or 24 months?
12.
12, okay.
Thank you.
She said 12. She said 12.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay.
thank you.
Call the question. Passes
Thank
tied
you.
to 0. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks for coming today.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Board. For the record, my name is John Peterson, and I am the zoning division manager. The first item we're going to hear today for other business is other business item number 64, which is to consider a reduction of minimum lot size for Igor Dinez for property located on the eastern side of Woodland Brook Drive, south of Rebel Valley View, and land lot 892 of the 17th District. By way of background, the Board of Commissioners considers all reductions to minimum lot size pursuant to a code amendment to Section 134-271-7A, adopted by the Board on February 27, 2018. The subject property is zoned R30, which requires a 30,000 square foot minimum lot size. The proposed lot is shown at 28,061 square feet. This represents less than a 6% reduction in minimum lot size for the requirement. The staff has researched this property and cannot locate any deeds of right-of-way donation that may have reduced the lot size area. So the applicant has filed this other business application in order to rectify the zoning criteria for lot size. Is there anyone here opposed to this item? Please raise your hands. We have 4 opposed, and the applicant is present. The staff would ask the Board of Commissioners to conduct a public hearing and consider the proposed lot size reduction. Is the applicant here? All those wishing to address the board, please come forward and be sworn in.
Yes, hi, I'm Igor Dennis. I'm the one who's attempting to develop the land. Yeah, as has been said, all we're trying to do is get a 2,000 square foot variance on a lot that's 28,000 on a 30,000 requirement. And we're building a single family home there, and that's all we're trying to do.
So on this plat that he's gonna show up here quickly. In 97, when the owner purchased the home, it did have over 30,000 square feet on the survey. It's roughly 31,000. We are just purchasing now. We do not know why the reduction. We believe it might have been the railroad might have taken more looking at it and how it comes off from the one we have now and this one. But at one point, it did have 30. It looks like it was reduced to a little over 28,000 currently, and we're just looking to build one house here. And there was a house there at one point, but it did burn down between when they bought the house in 97, bought it in 97 until now.
Anybody else in support of this other business? Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name's Justin Lane. I work for Billy Schultz, and they own the property, and he couldn't be here today, but the property was purchased back in 97, and this was the original survey. Like they've mentioned, it was 30,000 feet. You know, they've maintained this property and paid taxes on it for all these years, and now it's seems like it's unbuildable, which you know, is unfortunate. So we just ask that y'all would consider the reduction for a home to be built here on this lot. So,
Okay, thank
thank
you.
you.
All right, thank all of you. All right, those in opposition now, please.
My name is Ken Crane. I live at 4617 Woodland Brook Drive, which is one house removed from the property that's under discussion here. My concern and my wife's concern is that we want to maintain the character of the neighborhood along Woodland Brook Drive. It's currently got a lot of nice houses along there. At one time, we had some really, we had a problem piece of land on the other side of the street from this piece of property.
Could we put the map back up so we can see what we're talking about here? Thank you. All right, so where do you live again, sir?
One house over from there.
One, not that one, but the next one?
Yes,
That one right there?
yes.
Okay, all right, now we're good.
Okay, and if you notice the property across the street that's got nothing on it,
Okay,
that's a new development. For years, that was a terrible neighborhood with crack houses and really bad neighborhood. And we've got the development over there that we're very glad to have and hope that they can start building homes and sell it. But we would like for this home, since this is part of the Woodland Brook Drive community, to look a little bit like the other houses on the street. We're concerned that there's a creek. You can see the creek in blue, I believe. It runs along the back of the property. That additional runoff will occur if the home is too large. We are concerned that the variance allowing this lot to be built on that's too small might set a precedent for the rest of the neighborhood. But I think, speaking for myself and my wife, we would be happy to have a house built there if the house is in keeping with the other homes in the neighborhood, and if it would frankly enhance the value of our property and not reduce it. And we have just had a short meeting with the person wishing to build a house, and we don't have enough information to support this motion at this point. We would like to see what exactly he wants to build, and we'd like to see it in a way that's in writing that he can be held to. So that's our position. We oppose as it's proposed at this point. If we have more information that is of a nature that's written that we can use as stipulations or whatever we could do, make sure that the development on that property is in keeping with the neighborhood, then we would probably support it. Thank you.
Okay, sure, thank you. Anyone else in opposition?
Good morning. I'm Brenda Crane, and I as well live at 4617 Woodland Brook Drive. Commissioner Ott, did you get any email letters that you recall?
I don't think we did, no. I'm looking at Kim. We didn't get any. Are you talking about from your neighbors?
Right,
No, I don't think so.
because I spoke with them over the weekend, and they assured me they were sending them, but I
Maybe
guess.
they might have sent it in, no, they might not have sent it as emails. If they sent it as regular mail, yesterday was a holiday.
No, they sent it as emails because
Okay.
I gave them the address. Anyway, our concerns are, one is the creek. And he's talking about building a 4,500 square feet house. And that creek has been sort of an albatross for all of us. And it turns out that the creek runs not only behind our houses, that house, the Caddises who are sitting here next door, and then our house, the third one. But the creek runs right in the back of our three houses. It also runs on Vinings Way, which is the street behind where all of our houses were supposed to be built. They got variances to build them on Woodland Brook Drive. So there are two other houses, Cheryl Rogers and the Wilhams, who are very concerned about this as well. I know Cheryl Rogers was sick, but she said she would send an email. Anyway, all of us, that's 5 families, are very concerned about the runoff of especially a 4,500 square foot home, which is being built on a piece of land that's is not nearly as large as all of ours are. And the other, as Ken Crane said, there were no elevations. He said that it was going to have a lot of glass, and you know, our concern is that he could put a very contemporary house that would not at all blend in with the style of the homes in our neighborhood, as well as in this new neighborhood that's going to be across from that, which are said to be 800,000 and up traditional Williamsburg homes. So our concern is we need to see plans, we need to see elevations. He's got a plan, but we need to see elevations and a determination of the roof size before giving our approval. But we as well would love to see something built on this property. We remember the Douthits who lived there before. Their house burned. This house was tied. It was one of the owners who owned a home in the Settlement Road area. So this was a poor black family, which we knew personally. And so when her house burned, that's when the new owner, Billy Schultz, bought the property along in that time, knowing that there was a tiny little house on it. So thank you for your consideration, and we very much appreciate what you've done.
Okay, thank you for coming this morning, ma'am. Anybody else in opposition? Okay, seeing none, I'll turn this with recommendations from staff.
Mr. Chairman and Board, the staff would recommend the Board of Commissioners approve this request, subject to stormwater management comments, water and sewer comments, Cobb DOT comments, and the District Commissioner to approve the final house elevations for the construction.
Commissioner Ott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dave? Just for the board, this whole area over there, Settlement Road and all this, it's a lot of history. some of it unknown history with the residents that used to live over here. All right, so number one concern is the creek.
Yes.
So let's talk about, well, first off, let's talk about this on the site plan here, the 75-foot buffer, because I know that was part of what kind of had me pull it.
I think that was the original surveyor that put that on the. No, it was just
Right,
drawn
but
on
we
there?
checked
Okay.
into that, and that is
Okay.
not.
Yeah.
That's on there, but it's not really on there.
Right.
That's what we found
I
out.
spoke with Frank Gibson at Community Development, who administers the county stream buffer ordinance, and new lots or new developments are required to meet, obviously, the stream buffer requirements, but lots that were platted prior to the buffer ordinance being created, which this one was, it was a lot prior to 2000 and already had a house on it. We still apply a state buffer, which is a 25-foot undisturbed buffer. So they need, and I think they're showing the 25-foot buffer foot on this plan, and it looks like to me that at least the footprint of the house that they've got on here is probably 35 feet, so away from the stream buffer. So that's why I'm requiring a grading plan to make sure that the plan they
Right.
put together does show
Okay,
grading.
so just for the folks listening, the drawing that you originally saw had the 75 feet, which would be the current stream buffer, because you have 25 feet from the state. But this was platted back prior to that being put into place, so what the county has to enforce is a 25-foot stream buffer.
Right.
And so far, they're doing that. Let's talk a little bit about what measures you and the stormwater and all that have the developer put in place to protect the creek.
Well, we don't have a proposed grading plan or footprint yet, but
Right.
when it does come in, we want to make sure that there's no grading within the 25-foot undisturbed buffer.
Right, but how are you going to, I think the neighbors' concerns are, getting stuff into the creek and.
A single family lot is, any lot in the county is exempt from stormwater management if they're putting in less than 5,000 square feet or less.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure they're not going to be doing less than 5,000 square feet.
But now I can add that they.
Well, let me finish my statement,
Okay,
then you can make your decision. The footprint, at least they've got here in a driveway, would probably put them over 5,000. They are allowed 9,800 square feet based on the 35%. So if they're 5,000 or less, we would just make sure they have site grading that meets our requirements. But if they're over the 5,000, then we would require some kind of mitigation on the lot, like we do in the.
Right, but I can add even.
You can add
I
whatever.
can add.
You can
even
add
if they're
whatever
less
you
than
want. That's
5,000
right.
square feet, I can say that.
It's your district.
That I can add a stipulation that says that they will meet stormwater requirements for the same as something over 5,000 square feet. Is that how you would want me to have to word it?
What are you actually looking for?
Yes.
Stormwater mitigation?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
So how do you want me to word it? Because that's where we're going.
So you're wanting it provided for anything that's over the 5,000?
No, whatever they build there, I want it provided as if it was over 5,000. So I want the 5,000 rule to apply even if they're less than 5,000.
Then just word it that you're providing stormwater management for the lot, for the development.
So just say, okay, all right. Okay, and, okay, I think that's all I have for you.
Is that good?
Yeah, thanks. All right, hey, Dave, some of the other commissioners have questions.
So what would be required at 5,000 square feet?
If the commissioner was not making any kind of recommendation.
He-
County code does not, we allow up to 5,000 square feet of impervious to be developed on a lot without having to provide stormwater management.
So if a home is presumed to be over 5,000 feet, what action do they need to take to mitigate stormwater?
They would be putting some kind of best management practice to mitigate that increase in peak runoff to the stream. Yeah.
So if you're looking at a home that's valued less than 5,000 square feet, now they need to pay for a measure that would be comparable to a home that's 5,000 square feet or more.
No, I'm sure that the commissioner believes that with the house and the driveway, there's going to be more than
Well,
5,000
yeah, Commissioner
square
Cupid,
feet.
my concern is that.
Total impervious.
My concern is that they're real close to 5,000. What I don't want to happen is for some minor changes to be made to the driveway or something like that, so they're at 4,800.
Okay.
So they don't have to do anything
So be
for
mindful of
effectively
it.
being at 5,000. And so that's why
Okay.
I think they're going to be close
Okay.
enough, but I think they could all potentially be just a little bit under. And so I would rather err on, with the creek, I would rather err, I mean, more than likely they're gonna be over 5,000.
Okay,
But
okay.
I think they're gonna be close.
Okay.
And so I just wanna,
Provide some measures in case they're just under.
Right.
Okay, I can see
Understand.
That's
underscoring
where I'm
it. I
going
just
is-
don't want to put people on notice that that's,
No, and it's just because I
move
think
that
they're gonna be close, and if they're not over 5, they're gonna be just under.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, John, let's talk about the lot size.
Yes, sir.
And I know, John, you know this, and some of the commissioners do, that most of the lots in Vinings are not what they're zoned. We run into this a lot when stuff comes in from Vinings. We have a lot of R30 lots that are not R30, they're 30,000 square feet. This one, do we have any idea how it got below 30?
I took a look at the 97 survey that the gentleman showed for the applicant, and the two lots together definitely have over 30,000 square feet, that right there. And I was comparing that 97 survey to what they've submitted for this other business, and it looks like there's 15 feet missing along the railroad right-of-way. That's kind of where the lot size went to. So I'm not sure if the railroad took that 15 feet, that 15-foot strip along there, if it was dedicated 15 years ago or 100 years ago. There's no deed that I could find that showed that.
Okay.
But that survey definitely shows a lot over 30,000 square feet.
All right, and it's a little bit confusing. So what we're looking at here is a survey that was 2 lots.
That's correct.
And what we have in our books is 1 lot.
That's correct.
Right, but it's 1 lot that's short. Wasn't there something back when the railroads, when there were steam engines, there was something about I mean, the railroad had a right of way for the tracks, but then wasn't there a certain distance that you couldn't have anything up by the, because I know my in-laws' property has a railroad runs through it, and there's, besides the right of way for the track, there's an area that goes back when stuff would become flying off the trains and stuff, that
Yeah,
you couldn't,
And
you
there's
couldn't do
nothing
anything.
shown on this plat that has an extra easement from the right of way. There's nothing
Right.
shown on this plat or that plat.
Right, yeah, okay, so, I mean, I have no idea, I'm just speculating that that might be what it is. So, okay. For the opposition, I share your concerns about the elevations too, but there is a wonderful way for the end. John talked about I can stipulate that they can't do anything until you've seen the elevations, until I've seen the elevation, and then I have to sign off on the elevations. As a matter of fact, typically what happens is we don't allow the land disturbance permit until all that information is in here. So what I'm going to be stipulating is that prior to getting the land disturbance permit, so before they can do anything to the property, they're going to have the stormwater mitigation that we just talked about with Dave Braden, and I'm going to have to see the elevations. So nothing's going to happen until we see everything. I mean, I can't keep them from building on this lot. There was a house on this lot. There should be a house on this lot. The fact that they're 2,000 square feet under the R30 is not abnormal in Vinings. And so I think that, all of your concerns can be addressed through stormwater mitigation and also the elevations coming back in front of me and you before they get the land disturbance permit. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve other business 64 from 2018 per all staff comments, and in addition, that the district commissioner will sign off on all the elevations after the adjoining property owners. The 3 lots for the developer, the 3 lots, you know which ones they are, you saw on the map today, that they get to see them, but I'll be the final approval. And then also that the developer will do the stormwater mitigation as required by stormwater management, as if the property had 5,000 square feet or more of impervious. Does that work, Dave? And then all other staff comments. Is that good, John? Okay, that'd be my motion.
Discussion. Call the question. Passes 5-0.
Thank you. Second thing we're going to hear today is other business item number 4, which is to consider a stipulation amendment for Taylor Morrison of Georgia LLC regarding rezoning case Z78 of 2016. The property is located on the north side of Manor Road, south of Plant Atkinson Road, in land lot 825 of the 17th district. By way of background, the property was rezoned in 2016 for a residential townhome community, subject to many conditions. One of the zoning conditions called for the townhomes to have two-car attached garages. The applicant would like to revise the stipulation to allow one- and two-car garages on the property. If approved, all previous conditions would remain in effect. Is there anyone here, is the applicant here? Is the applicant here for other business number 4? Is there anyone opposed to other business number 4?
No, the business 4 is the one that John just read, but on the screen, you had 79.
So, yeah, we need to do,
Are we doing 79 or 4?
4 of 19.
What happened to 79?
it was, yeah, it was.
Oh, okay, all right, I got you. All right. But the applicant was not here, right?
Is the applicant here for other business number 4? Is there anyone opposed to other business number 4?
Okay, just read the recommendation.
To deny the request.
Okay,
So moved.
so we have a motion to deny. We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0. Okay.
And the last item on today's agenda is other business number 5, which is to consider amending the stipulations for Hilltop TIC LP and Rough Snow Limited regarding rezoning application Z11 of 2016. Property located at the southeast corner of Veterans Memorial Highway and Powell Drive. By way of background, the subject property was rezoned to NRC in 2016 for a climate-controlled storage facility and retail. The climate-controlled storage facility is no longer going to be developed, and that's been removed from the request. The zoning stipulations specify and disallow certain uses. The applicant only desires to operate typical shopping center uses from this property, and these are the uses that are located in the front of the shopping center. The applicant would also like to lease the basement in the rear of the shopping center to 2 vocational schools, which are not normally permitted in the NRC zoning district. The vocational schools would be for cosmetology and for electricians. The space is intended for the space intended for the vocational school would be ideal for this use, since these schools do not need the road exposure that a retail restaurant or office use would need along the highway. The vocational schools would have the same or less intensity than other uses that are allowed in NRC, such as convenience stores, grocery stores, or fast food restaurants. If approved, all previous zoning conditions would remain in effect. And we would ask the Board of Commissioners to conduct a public hearing to consider the proposed stipulation amendment. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to this item? Let the record show there's one person opposed. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Okay. All right.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. I'm Lauren Hansford with the Galloway Law Group. I'm here today on behalf of the applicants. As Mr. Peterson noted, this is another business request specifically to allow vocational uses at this existing shopping center. I have with me today Ken Murkison, who represents the owners of the shopping center. They purchased, this is the Hilltop Shopping Center at 1391 Veterans Memorial. They purchased the shopping center in 2017, and we came before the board at that time to have one of the conditions removed for the self-storage. And I believe we have been in discussions with Robin Meyer of the Mableton Improvement Coalition. I believe she submitted a revised letter of proposed conditions to the board. We are willing to abide by those conditions. I believe the only item that's outstanding or that we need to discuss is the repaving of the shopping center. And that's what we were discussing earlier. So I have with me today Ken Murkison, as I mentioned, but I also have Douglas Millette, who is the owner and operator of these proposed vocational schools. So he can answer any specific questions you may have about those.
Anybody have any questions? This is your lucky day. No questions. Okay, opposition. Ms. Meyer?
Thank you. My name is Robin Meyer, and I'm the chairman of the board of the Mableton Improvement Coalition. And we have been in conversation with Mr. Murkerson and Ms. Hansford related to this other business agenda item. The most important item to us is the parking lot. And it was our understanding that we had reached agreement with them that the parking lot would be repaved. And to us, that means a complete redo. And I realize that that is not a technical term, but I'm a member of the public, I'm not a paving engineer. But I have, because I thought this item was settled, I did not bring the photos I should have. I have one photo, though, that if we can make it appear like magic. The current state of the parking lot in the front of the building is fairly unsightly. There we go. As I understand it, Mr. Braden with Stormwater Management asked that the landscape islands not have the usual concrete curbing around them so that they could act as part of the stormwater management system on this property. When repairs were made to the parking lot, however, rather than there be no impediment to the water approaching the landscape islands, asphalt was mounded up around the landscape islands. It is not very sightly. I don't think it's going to prevent cars and vehicles from encroaching on the landscape islands, and I don't think it's going to last. I understand that a better or another solution to keeping cars off the landscape islands and allowing water into and out of them would be concrete wheel stops. And my conversation with Mr. Murkerson is that is okay with him. The current state of the parking lot that is what you see there. There's a big puddle. The asphalt is broken and uneven, and it is just really in terrible shape. So we would ask that any approval of this request for the vocational schools, in which we're full support of the vocational schools, but that the approval require repaving on a time certain schedule. Thank you very much.
Thank you. See no one else in opposition? John? Staff recommendations?
Mr. Chairman of the Board, the staff would recommend the Board of Commissioners approve the request for the vocational schools, subject to the fire department comments contained in the other business packet, and subject to all previous conditions not in conflict with this amendment.
Okay, Commissioner Cupid.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. As was stated by the applicant and also repeated by Robin Meyer with the Mableton Improvement Coalition, the repaving of this site is really what's at issue here. There are some other stipulations that are documented in a stipulation letter February 12, 2019 from the Mableton Improvement Coalition to the applicant that the applicant was in agreement to. I would like to read in those stipulations so that those can be made effective with this application before we get to the issue of the pavement. There's also a couple of other stipulations that I communicated with the applicant that we're in agreement to, and I would like to read those, and then we'll deal with the issue of paving. Mableton's February 12th letter of 2019. It states that installation of a wrought iron style fencing along the eastern property line where the parking lot abuts Old Powder Springs Road. A detail of this fencing is included in plans provided by Mr. Roy Taylor, which we understand were approved by Commissioner Cupid and are attached to this letter. That's one condition of the property. The next one is cleanup of the litter and trash behind the building, which has been cited by code enforcement. The last stipulation is no certificates of occupancy or business licensing be issued for this property until the fencing is completed and the litter issue is resolved. And just for clarification, they do include paving in that. I just excluded that from that condition because we'll address that in a final stipulation. but it says here, no certificates of occupancy or business licenses to be issued for this property until the fencing is completed and the issue of litter is resolved. These conditions are a continuation of the 2016 zoning, which were confirmed by the other business item. In the email between the applicant and myself, I would like to add the additional stipulations, which I'll also forward to the clerk's office. The rear walls are to have all peeling paint and overgrown shrubs removed from them. Rear walls are to be repainted one uniform color, either the same white color or a different color selected by the district commissioner. Rear walls are to be maintained such that they are free of peeling, cracked, or discolored paint, and also free from graffiti or overgrown shrubs. This is to be completed prior to CO. Also, rear white staircase is to be replaced prior to CO. And I looked at the additional condition from fire, which stated that there may be a change of use and certificate of occupancy. For those that are here from the fire marshal's office, there's just a rusted out ladder that's at the back of the property, which is probably a fire escape of some sorts. But I was going to add that that be chipped and repainted, but there's so much rust, it just looks like it needs to be replaced. But I will defer to your judgment. Lastly, the matter of the paving, I also sent in some additional pictures of the property. Paving is an issue, and you can look at, not just at the front, but surrounding the entire property. And I think the applicant is aware that it's not a matter of if it's going to be repaved, it's a matter of when it's going to be repaved. The repaving of the lot is included in the stipulation letter on July 19th of 2016, where item number 14 provides that the lot was to be repaved and striped in front of the building within 120 days. A parking lot to incorporate landscape islands as required by current code. The front of the lot, it looks as if it may have been resurfaced, but as you can see by the conditions of the lot, it just needs to be repaved. And I did a little bit of research on my own to see that there is a difference between repaving and resurfacing a parking lot. And I believe we've seen some resurfacing, but there are too many issues in the underlying layers of the parking lot for resurfacing to be adequate. And just in, I received recent correspondence from DOT. You can bear with me. That if they just mill and overlay, it is going to look like this again in a year, that there are some serious failures within the parking, within the parking lot. So that's an issue, but we also want to get tenants in there so that they can bring in revenue to help pay for improvement of the lot. And, you know, we've had a lot of improvements to the property, even though it's in the condition that it's in. When they came in, there were hundreds, if not 1,000 tires that were dumped all over the property. I mean, it was boarded up windows. It was really a very tough site. And they've come in and retained a tenant and are getting new tenants. So I think there's hope. The matter is, when are we going to see repaving of the lot? And that's what we're trying to discuss here today. So if you don't mind, if either Mr. Hansford or, excuse me, Mr. Murchison or Ms. Hansford can approach and we can discuss this. And I want to work together with you because you've worked together with the community and I'm bringing in strong tenants, but the issue of the paving just really needs to be.
Yeah, I think the art is in the description of the paving, and let me just say this, I know there were stipulations issued in 2016, and the group that initially got the self-storage, they ran the property in the ground. We bought it from them, and it was, all the storefront windows were smashed out, all the mechanical was ripped, the air conditioning were cannibalized off the front, and so I just want to say that this thing's been fairly organic. I met with Commissioner Cupid in 2017 before we bought it, and we kind of had an understanding, at least, on what would be done. And then when the permit was circulated through all the departments in Cobb County, we were tearing out a parking lot for landscape islands and to irrigate those and put in 30 trees and closing off a curb cut on Veterans Memorial near Powell. And so, forgive me for the misunderstanding. I thought that we had kind of an understanding that we would temporarily do a light overcoat till we got to 90% occupied because of cranes and all the heavy equipment, and then we would come back and do an 1.5 inch overlay on the thing and structurally replace the other defective areas. So we did that. We've continually had stipulations. We have 3 active building permits. It's been difficult to re-tenant this because Cobb County put a number of stipulations for tenants in there, most of which we wouldn't want to begin with, like liquor stores, but we have other stipulations that we inherited with Dollar General, where we can't have a meat market or competing type of uses as their business change. So right now we have 4 tenants identified right now. We have 3 leases, 3 active permits on occupancy permits, and we're about to engage to have $50,000 worth of air conditioning units and cranes put on. So we're trying to kind of get over the finish line to move in these tenants, because a lot of our problems has resulted with just the fact that it's not very well occupied, and if you have responsible tenants in there, it mitigates a lot of the damage. But our hope would be, and we've agreed with Robin to go in by the end of July after we re-tenant these 4 spaces, which takes us up to 80% occupancy, to go in and do an 1.5 inch asphalt overlay to come in and tear out the structural issues. And we have 20 properties in Georgia, and we've done that and haven't had objections in the past. So I feel like that's a reasonable fix that's commensurate with the center, and I think it'll look significantly different. We haven't done that thus far. We did a temporary fix, and there was a misunderstanding, but we haven't had occupancies since then.
So it's like a chicken and the egg. I mean, at some point you need occupancy to support the improvements. We're glad to see this property have a more responsible owner. And I think we're all inclined to work with you. And so I'm gleaning from this that you're willing to do, to mill and do an overlay by July 31st.
Correct.
According to staff, they said that would not be, that would not last more than a year, given the current condition of the lot. If there were a date put that after that is done, you have to come back within a year to actually resurface this lot. That would give you opportunity to get the tenants in and to get income, and hopefully be in a better position to address the original stipulation, which was to resurface.
Well, let me say this. Part of the issue is just Dollar General has a truck that enters off of Veterans Memorial and does a 90-degree turn where there was a landscape island, and they're truck drivers. They're paid by the hour. They get in and get out of there, and so we relocated the trees on that landscape island over to where the curb cut was closed on Veterans Memorial. And so we haven't structurally addressed that. I think that if you look at probably 60% of the parking lot, you're looking at the other area that an overlay will take care of it. I think it'll maintain it, and I disagree that a 1-year fix on those other areas, that's historically, if you only have regular vehicles on it, you're looking at a 5-year fix. I think that clearly on where the truck goes on that one fire lane, that's a different issue. But what you're talking about is a meaningful expense on something that just doesn't, economically warrant it. I mean, I would say, I think there's a gray area where we can come up with a way to maintain that fire lane, and that's where the objections are. It's where that truck goes.
I just saw that from driving the entire property, the surface of the property is an issue throughout the entire premise. not just where the trucks are coming in there. And I'm going to rely on the feedback of our staff that has assessed what your proposal was. You know, and I'm not in a position being here to understand your proposal and their analysis to say whose is going to trump what. But being a commissioner and working with our staff, I'm inclined to rely on what their analysis is. And I do not know how to craft a stipulation that would accommodate any other gray area if your fix were to be acceptable. I do know that whatever was done between the time that you moved in there and to now, the parking lot looks like this.
And we, to a certain degree, we're not snookering anybody. I talked to you a year ago and said, I know that our thought was, once we got the building permits approved, that we would come back and do the overlay. So we've never really addressed that. I'm happy to continue this one issue and then visit with your technical people and come up with a logical solution that has more clarity. I'm scared to death of just a broad, we're gonna, you know, because what happened before, it was resurface the parking lot, and now it's now the language changed.
That's the thing, the language hasn't changed.
I'm sorry, repave, but now it says repave and not resurface. I'm happy to meet with your technical people and come up with more clarity on a standard that the thing should be maintained, period.
And I think you're asking to change a significant stipulation because it's in there and it's also repeated in a letter from your attorney about paving. And from what I did, or my research online shows that there's a significant difference between resurfacing and repaving. What I think you're talking about is resurfacing, but repaving actually requires you to remove layers of the asphalt and then actually fix the underlying issues before paving it, where resurfacing would allow you to come in and just put in a smaller layer of asphalt and filling in cracks.
Let me say this, I say that in an overlay, you scrape the top layer out, you fix the base, and then you put back 1.5 inches or 2 inches right there. That was what we were talking about doing. I think that the gray matter is if you have a good base on there and you have, you know, 3 inches under there, it's cost prohibitive to sit there and excavate all that, to come back and do all that. So there's, you know, I've got 20 shopping centers I've run, and frequently we've come in and scraped the top layer off. We fix the base where there's structural failures, and then we've come back in with a 2-inch asphalt overlay. And that's what we were targeting in the front. We've never said that we had done that thus far. And in the process of us talking, we had to come in and trench the parking lot, run irrigation, and there's obviously failures right there. But we're not trying to shortchange it, but I'm trying to get clarity on the thing, saying that, you know, that what you're talking about, and it just in the description of the scope of the work can be the difference between $75,000 and $250,000 of work, and so that's what I'm trying to clarify.
I appreciate. So as we're all trying to get clarification here, I am willing to provide a month continuance for you to consult with DOT and for us to be in agreement about how we address this stipulation. I think that what probably is not clear is just the laundry list of stipulations that were on this property prior to you assuming it, because this is not the first other business item that we've had regarding some of those stipulations, but this is a lingering other business item that we have. And I'll be honest with you, the original other business item did just state repaving of the front, but because this business would be utilizing the basement, which I presume would be accessing the site at the rear, the paving in the rear also needs to be addressed if this were to move forward. So I would just ask Ashley if we can get DOT's help to confer with the applicant prior to the March hearing, and that we can continue this then.
And I would just politely request that, you know, we've had 2 tenants in there, a barber shop and a custom furniture store, that have been patient. And I mean, it took us over 6 months to pull our building permit because the previous owner had we had no as-built plans on what they'd done and anything. So if we could just work with our school and our two tenants to at least get them open, it would profoundly help us in stabilizing this asset.
That's part of the other business item, and if we work with you, unfortunately, I can't move forward and allow them to come in until we have this issue addressed, because this, again, is a lingering stipulation for a number of years, and this hearing allows us to have opportunity to address that outstanding issue.
Okay, so we have a motion to continue for a
Yes.
month. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second? I think we've had a robust discussion. Any further discussion? Call the question.
Joanne, did you want to?
Well, I'm just curious why you couldn't make a step for them to resurface and mill the entire parking lot in a time frame.
Yes, that was the
To
original
approve it.
plan to do that, but the concern is because that doesn't address the forward paving of the lot, DOT is saying that the lot will be in a similar condition in 1 year. And I don't want then Mick to have to go back and get code enforcement involved to address something that could be addressed here today.
Okay.
Okay, I'll call the question. Passes 4-0 with Commissioner Ott in absence. With that, I believe we're done, right? We're adjourned.